go live. Hello, everyone. All right. Let's, Maria, if you can just let me know once we're live on the actual platforms. We are? We're good? All right, sweet. Well, I know that there's a little bit of a delay through the streaming platform that we're using, but welcome everyone. I'm super excited for this live. It's been a while since we did a live, and we're going to talk today about should you really buy a franchise? It's a popular question that we get, and so I'm super excited to dive in. I'm going to make sure I got a little bit more lights here. So in the meantime, while everyone's getting on board, as you're getting on, let me know where you're tuning in from. What city and state are you tuning in from? Super curious. I think for the folks on Facebook, you'll be able to more easily comment. What's up, Kareem? Long time no see. Awesome. All right, cool. So, should you really buy a franchise? Wow, it's such a good question. It's probably the most common question that I get from people. Whether you're kind of just thinking about owning a franchise or it's been something you've been thinking about for a while, it comes up at all stages. And what I find is even folks who are deep in the process of looking at franchises are still thinking in the back of their head, should I really buy one? Pro Gamer, what's up from Maryland? Cool. Looks like Tanya from Virginia. Awesome. Welcome. We got the YouTube crowd here. We got the Facebook crowd. So here's the first thing that I want to share, and there's a little bit of an awkward glare on the whiteboard, so you're just gonna have to bear with me on that. I'm gonna figure out another solution for next time. But number one is to start with the end in mind. And so as you can see, we're going to cover five things today, 5 things to think about, and should you really buy a franchise? But start with the end in mind. And so what do I mean by that, right? It's kind of like the analogy of if you're going to take a trip. That's always the analogy that I use, right? Which is, you're sitting here at let's say you're entering into the woods, right? Or you're getting ready to begin on this destination. You're like, which path should I take? Like, should I take this road? Should I take this road? Should I take this road? And so it's like, should I buy a franchise? Should I start my business? Should I start my own business? Should I buy a resale business that's not a franchise? Like, should I partner with someone else? And it really, the first thing you have to do is just start with the end in mind. Like, what do you want? What do you want? Or what's your why? Have you thought about why do you want to start a business? What's the reason? Have you ever thought about that, like, really deeply? Like, well, why do I want to start a business? For some people, it could be, well, I want to start a business because I want more recognition. I work at a company, I work really hard, and I never really get recognized for my efforts, right? Well, maybe entrepreneurship may not be the way to go because there's not a ton of recognition. A lot of the times it's you, right? And so if that maybe is a reason why you're looking to buy a franchise, because you're like, I want to be seen, I want to be recognized, that may not be the best reason why to start a franchise, right? Maybe it's, hey, like, I want to experience more freedom, right? I want to experience more freedom. I want to experience more flexibility. Like, I want to be able to pick my kids up from school. I want to be able to take them to school. And like right now in the work that I'm doing, like, I don't have that flexibility. I got to be at my desk at this time and X, Y, and Z, right? And so maybe then what's important to realize is in the beginning of entrepreneurship, you may have more flexibility on the front end, right? You might have more flexibility on the front end, but then you also might have more commitments, right? Meaning maybe you're having to work on the weekends, but where you weren't before, but you still get to take your kids to school during the week. You get to pick them up and you have that flexibility. Does that make sense? So you got to start out with your why. What is it that you want out of the business, right? And if like really, what are you optimizing for? Are you looking to replace your income and you're wanting to be a full-time entrepreneur? Or are you wanting to, let's say, create passive income, right? If you're coming into, hey, should I buy a franchise? And the reason why you want to buy a franchise, right? The reason is because you're looking to create passive income, then it's probably not the right opportunity for you. Because before you can get to the passive part, there's a significant amount of work and time and energy that needs to go into it. As an example, so when we opened our store from scratch in California, after about 8 months, we moved to Florida, and I wasn't really operating or doing much in the business at that time, and it was more quote unquote passive. But for the first 7, 8 months, I was in the store every single day. For the first couple of weeks, I was in there for 12 hours a day. So, if you're thinking, hey, should I buy a franchise? I'm just looking for like a passive opportunity to make, I don't know, maybe an extra 50 grand a year, 75 grand a year, then maybe franchising isn't for you if you're not willing to put in the sweat equity on the front end to try to generate something that could be more semi-passive, right? And maybe that you're just looking for to create another income stream, right? Maybe you're just looking to create a few $1,000s a month because eventually you want to retire soon, or you'd like to transition to entrepreneurship 3 or 5 years down the line, right? But you got to get clear on what you're optimizing for, like very specifically, what do you want and why do you want it? Because at the end of the day, if your why is not incredibly strong, you'll probably just give up or flounder during the process. So if you don't have this strong driving force of why you want to do this, then maybe you shouldn't, right? But if you feel like deep in your heart that, like, wow, how I felt, right? I really want to be an entrepreneur. I really want to make this happen. This is my dream, to be able to work for myself and impact the community, to be able to control my income. That would be so amazing. So for me, that was starting with the end in mind. I knew what that looked like. I wanted to have multiple businesses. And so the question of should I buy a franchise, it made a lot of sense because it was like, oh, it's like a blueprint. I can do that first. I can learn business and then use that as a platform in which to continue to start more and more businesses, which is what I did. So number 2, and should you buy a franchise, is your current situation. And so what do I mean by current situation? What I mean by current situation is, what is it about your current situation right now that you don't like? Like, what is it about your situation that that you want to change, right? And it's really important because when you figure out what it is about your current situation that you're not happy with, it helps you to gain clarity on what it is that you do want. So a lot of the times what happens is me and my team will talk to people, right? We'll talk to people and they'll say, I'm not sure. I'm open-minded, right? I'm open-minded. Well, again, being open-minded is not a specific point of clarity. If you start driving and you're going to take a trip and the person in the seat next to you is like, hey, where are we going? And you're like, hey, I'm open-minded. Yeah, I don't know. I'm open-minded. We're just going. Well, where the heck are you going to end up? Right? Maybe you say that in your heart, where you really want to go is, Northern California, right? But your open-mindedness and being vague takes you to Vegas, right? So You got to be clear on your current situation and what it is that you do like about your current situation, what it is that you don't like about your current situation, so that you can gain clarity there to figure out if, hey, is what I don't like about my situation now, will I experience that as a franchise owner? Maybe, right? Maybe it's possible. Maybe you won't. So you got to get clear on your current situation. Number 3 is really figuring out, this is like the meat and potatoes. So make sure if you got some pen and paper, something to take notes on, this is really one of the most important parts here, right? Which is, what are your options? Think about that. Like, what are your other options? So right now you're thinking about, hey, maybe I should buy a franchise. That would be cool, right? Maybe franchising will work. Well, what are your other options? So one option you have is to start a business from scratch, right? All right. So let's think about that. If you're starting a business from scratch, what are the pros and cons to starting a business from scratch? Right? Drop me some answers in the comments. What do you think are some of the pros and cons to starting a business from scratch? And also, and now after 11 minutes in, I remember to say this. By the way, if you're watching the replay, comment replay. If you're watching the replay, no matter what platform you are on, if you're watching the replay, drop replay. But so, pros and cons of starting a business from scratch, right? One of the pros could be barrier to entry, low barrier to entry, right? Where a franchise, you have to pay, let's say, the franchise fee, right? Which could range from, oftentimes the average is going to be around $40,000 franchise fee. Whereas if you're starting a business from scratch, maybe you can have an easy, low barrier to entry. You're able to get up and running for a lot cheaper, right? And one of the other pros are that you can do whatever you want. No, there's no one to tell you what to do, how to run your business. You don't have to follow any rules. You can do whatever it is that you want. It doesn't matter, right? But that's also, for me, what I experienced was that was one of the cons when I was starting my business from scratch, was that I could keep bouncing from idea to idea to idea and doing this and this shiny object and this shiny object. This is why so many businesses fail. It's one of the reasons why, because people don't have a blueprint. They don't have a path. They're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, never following through to see if that one thing actually works. And so that's one of the cons of starting a business from scratch, is that you just get to do whatever you want. And so if that means quitting or giving up, or because you had a low barrier to entry in terms of the investment, you're like, I only put a couple grand in, I'll give up, right? Whereas if you had signed a contract or commitment or agreement, maybe just the act of signing a franchise agreement, a 10-year commitment, is what you actually need. Like, maybe you just struggle with following through. I know that was one of the things for me. I kept bouncing from business idea to business idea to business idea to business idea. I started 9 different businesses in about a 10-year span, 9 different businesses. And so the biggest concern for my wife when it was coming up on us getting our home equity line of credit and potentially signing a franchise agreement, she's like, should we really do this? One of her questions was, should we start a business from scratch? Should we start the smoothie place from scratch? And I was thinking, man, do you know how long it would take us just to create the menu, the products, the testing? I'm like, honestly, like, just the whole thought of it overwhelmed me. And I was like, I'll wind up giving up. I'm not gonna follow through on this, right? And so what happened was, one of my wife's concerns was that, like, what happens when you don't want to do this business? Here was the cool thing. It doesn't matter. We signed a 10-year agreement. I'm in, baby. I'm committed. And so that could be one of the pros, right, to owning a franchise or going that route. Now, what else are your other options as opposed to buying a franchise? Again, it depends on your goals, starting with the end in mind, what you're looking to do, right? But one of your other options could be real estate investing. Could be real estate investing, owning a rental, an Airbnb, right? This is something that my wife and I had been looking into. And what we've noticed is that there's really not a lot of actual cash flow in it. Even if you're putting down a 20% down payment, I mean, the good news, let's talk about a pro to it. It's more passive, right? You could hire a property management company and pretty easily you could have that bad boy set up and have rentals coming in, having people staying there, and you pretty much don't have to do anything. You pay the property management company, they pretty much handle it all, and the quality of your life overall is not impacted. But then where in terms of cash flow, like if you were starting with the end in mind, you're saying, hey, right now I make 125 grand a year and I'm looking to replace my income. Well, how many rentals or Airbnbs is it going to take after your mortgages to be able to replace your income? Right? So that's when you got to think, well, okay, like, should I buy a rental or should I buy a franchise? Well, again, start with the end in mind. Depends on what your goal is. But if you're looking to optimize for as much cash flow as possible, probably a franchise or business is the way to go. It's going to give you the best opportunity to create cash flow. Does this make sense? Hopefully it's making sense. Because we have some folks that they wind up, they're like, oh, I'm looking at real estate. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, how much would you make? Well, yeah. So I could get about $6,000 a month from the rentals, and then my mortgage would be about $3,000 a month. So maybe, and then after the property management fee, and so you take all the deductions, and you're at $2,000 a month, $2,000 a month, and you're like, cool. All right, well that's awesome, $2,000 a month. But dude, you make 125 grand a year. You need 10 grand a month. So you would need 5 more of those properties in order to replace your income. But again, if we go back to starting with the end in mind, if you're just like, hey, I just wanted a couple grand of passive income, great. Don't go the franchise route. Then it doesn't make sense for you. If you just want a couple grand, maybe looking at another investment option is the right fit for you, right? All right. Let's go to number four, which is who is franchising not for? All right, so who is franchising not for? Let's talk about this because this is important, right? So if you're someone that doesn't like authority at all, like if you don't like authority, you don't like operating inside of the box, like you're one of those innovators and visionaries where you have all these ideas and you don't want to feel boxed in, you want to be able to let all of your creativity out, then probably owning a franchise is not for you. Because in a franchise, you're given a system, a template, a blueprint that has been proven to work, assuming that you're buying a franchise that is not a brand new emerging franchise that no one's done it before, right? So if you're buying into a franchise system that has 50, 75, 100 franchisees, like the roadmap is there. If you're someone who's like, well, I don't want to follow the road, I actually want to go off-roading, I want to do a little bit of mudding, get dirty, and kind of, whatever it is, then franchising isn't for you, right? So, and if you want to be completely autonomous and have zero level of accountability, right? You just want to be able to do what you want, when you want in your business. If you want to close early, you want to be able to close early, then you just do that. Well, then probably owning a franchise isn't for you, right? Because when you buy a franchise, part of it in your franchise agreement will say like, hey, you've got to be open X number of days a year. And you've got to be open at least these hours. Some won't. Some provide you a little bit of flexibility. But again, it's part of the system. It's like, hey, we've got franchisees. We know that this works. We know that being open at least during these hours work. We know that being open X many number of days or operating X number of days works is what is effective. So that is what is in your franchise agreement to do. Who else is franchising not for? If you have zero money. Now that comes with the caveat, right? The reason why I say this is because franchising has a net worth requirement. Most of us know this, right? Franchising has a net worth requirement, meaning that they say, okay, we want you to have $100,000 net worth, $300,000 net worth, $500,000 net worth. There's some franchises where you have to have $1 million net worth, right? Five Guys, Burgers and Fries is a franchise. Shaq used to own a bunch of Five Guys, and Phil Mickelson too, if you watch golf. And one of Five Guys things on their website, they probably still have it, but in order to even be considered to own Five Guys, you had to have access to $10 million in capital. So they specifically said on their website, access. Doesn't mean that has to be your net worth, but you have to have access to $10 million of capital. And so if you're someone that doesn't have any money, you don't have a net worth, you don't own any assets, then unless you partner with someone who has the assets, right, that can co-sign with you, then probably franchising is not for you in that instance, right? You've got to probably have at least $100,000 net worth, although there are some franchises where you could probably get in with just having maybe 25 grand or so. But we have had some people that have come through a zero profitable franchise system that have came in much lower and were able to buy, let's say, like a resale franchise or something like that. And by the way, for those of you, if you're interested in, if you're kind of trying to figure out, like, hey, yeah, I really like the idea of owning a franchise. I'd really like to do it. And you just need some help. You need some guidance. Maybe you need to narrow down on the right franchise because looking online is overwhelming. Then feel free to take advantage of a free strategy call with my team. You can go to tarikjohnson.com/consulting. Maria, you can keep that running on the bottom there. So cool. All right. So number 5 is you've tried to start a business already. Right. And so for me, this was my story. Kept trying to start business after business after business, and it just wasn't working. I was getting a little bit of traction, it wasn't following through, I was getting super overwhelmed, super confused. Right. And so at some point, here's what I learned about myself was that if someone just told me what to do, if I just had the exact blueprint in the exact system, like meaning like if I had the GPS, right? If I just knew exactly where to turn, where to go, then I would probably be successful. And so there are a lot of you out there, right? Maybe this resonates with you where you've tried to start a side hustle before. You've maybe bought courses online. You've started a little side hustle here and there. Like you've always been entrepreneurial, but you just never seem to be able to get the momentum that you needed to create like an actual full-time income, with entrepreneurship, right? And so maybe it's just that you had the wrong strategy. Maybe eventually you can start a business from scratch and whatever it is that you see in your mind, this specific type of business, but maybe it'll be helpful for you first to upgrade your identity level as an entrepreneur. Because maybe you're an employee right now, your current level of thinking and your identity is that of an employee. And so you've got to start to rewire your brain and your identity to become an entrepreneur. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to leverage someone else's belief and validation of their system. So for me, when I was opening my franchise, I didn't have to second guess everything like I used to do when I was starting my online business and my clothing business and my landscape business, where I would overthink just invoicing and how to do the invoicing and how to create it and structure it and how to bid, how to price the jobs. It was something that would leave me so confused. And so like in a franchise system, that's something you really don't have to figure out. because number one, you either have the franchisor that you can go to, they already have it figured out for you, or two, you have other franchisees in the system that you can reach out to. They've probably already dealt with the same problem that you're dealing with, right? And so, I think the other point is if if you felt lonely when you were trying to start a business before, right? Or you felt like, man, I could really use a support system, like a community, a network. I think, entrepreneurship can be really, really, really lonely if you let it. And so that's one of the cool things about a franchise. You got like neighboring territories where you guys can help each other out. I remember one time our store, somehow we messed up our order of cups and we had to use specific cups with the logo. And we were able to hit up one of the stores that were about 30 minutes away and borrow a sleeve of cups. Actually, maybe it was vice versa. Maybe they borrowed cups from us. I don't remember. It was about 6 years ago. But just having that community, being able to talk to other franchisees, was really, really, really powerful. So those are the five, just as a recap, those are the five things. I know the lighting is not great and my handwriting is even worse. When you're asking yourself, like, hey, should I start a business? I mean, should I really buy a franchise? Is franchising the route for me? Number one, you need to start with the end in mind. What am I optimizing for? Am I trying to replace my income? If I'm trying to replace my income and that's my goal and that's what's important to me, like, then you start to, it's not just linear, right? Then it's like, okay, well, what are my other options? If I need to replace my income of X number of dollars, I make 125 grand a year, let's say, and I know that I'm absolutely not happy in my current situation at work or whatever it is, like I know that where I am now is not where I want to be. Like I know that I want to be somewhere else in my life. I want to have flexibility. I want to have control. I want to be an entrepreneur. Then like, what else am I going to do? Am I going to start a business from scratch? Am I going to do rentals? Am I going to, like, what are you going to do if you don't do franchising? Does this make sense? Like, what other options do you have? When you start to think of it in that manner of like, like, what are my options? Well, this option sucks. This option sucks. This option's good. This option's good. Okay, great. Now move forward. Most of the time, what we do is we just think about these things without any sort of tangible strategy or execution or timeline. And then it swirls in your brain for like a year. Anyone can relate to that? And then, so start with the end in mind. Make sure you have an understanding of what your current situation is, what you don't like about it, so that you can use that as a reference point to figure out what it is you do want. Understand what your options are, like process of elimination and crossing off those options. Figure out, are you one of those people that franchising is not for? Meaning that you're not good at following instructions, not good at following a system. You don't want to, you want to think outside of the box. You want to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do without someone being in your business. Franchise is not for you. But if you're someone who's like, yeah, I love the idea of a system. I love the idea of being around other people that own the same business as me, that have done the exact same business. And I do like the idea of a franchisor holding me accountable. I do like the idea of actually signing an agreement because now I'm committed. Then maybe it is for you, right? So thank you everyone for attending this live. Again, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop replay. I'm going to be doing these every week, by the way. I'm going to start doing these lives every single week. Right now it's on a Thursday. Next week it's going to be on Wednesday. I'm going to do Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time is what it's going to be next week. So just to be even more clear and specific, it's going to be on Wednesday, July 12th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then I think we're going to pivot to doing it Thursdays again after that. I'll keep you guys posted and we'll announce it. But stay tuned. If you got some value out of this, then let me know in the comments below if there's a specific topic that you want to hear about when it comes to franchising. Let me know. I'll come on and do a live training. We're going to do some case studies have some of our clients that have been through our Zero to Profitable franchise system on. And so just really just providing massive value and making sure that you just get the support and help you need in this process and figuring out if entrepreneurship is for you, if franchising is for you. And again, if at any time you need some assistance or just need some guidance in the process, feel free to reach out to our team for a free strategy call and session. You can go to tarjohnson.com/consulting for that. All right, everyone, have a great night. Thanks so much for joining.